I really am sorry. I'm not sure what to do with this. I did not ask for you, please. Okay. No, I'm taking too much time, but this is so important to me. All right. Share the screen. All right. For those who come back. Okay, because this is true, Un says, therefore, so the conclusion is what happened to my slide? There's a slide missing, and that is the next verse. Okay, but you know this verse. For Authentes, this takes this participle form is not simply going. Parauthentes is passive, but paruomai, you remember, is usually translated active. In fact, how would you translate go and come in the passive voice? I have been come, I have been go. It doesn't work. So for whatever reason, this verb has passive forms. You notice the theta in the aorist passage. So some people, some experts like to make it, well, the main verb is mathetus ate. Notice this also is aorist imperative. Aoristem, sigma ate is the aorist second person plural. Doesn't have an augment because it's not indicative, it's imperative, but it's still aorist tense. So make learners. Disciples are learners. From manthano, this verb mathetus ate is the verb to make learners, but still from the same original verb, manthano, I learn. All right? And there are two things that belong to this. Two participles. One, baptiz ontes, present tense. We have an aorist tense imperative. Make learners. First, baptizing. Second, teaching. Baptizing is something that is the beginning. So lead them to faith. And to a public demonstration, I want to follow Jesus. Baptism is public. Now, how public it is another question. In Afghanistan, I know they baptized a new believer in a bathtub with 3 or 4 other believers around. Afghanistan is a hard place to have a church, right? So they used a bathtub. But it was still public in front of people. Okay. So baptizing, first thing. Second thing, teaching. The baptizing is the beginning, but there's a long life of teaching. We are continually learning and we are continually teaching. Both of those things need to go on if we're going to do this. This is the main verb, make disciples. But this takes its imperative form from the main verb, which is imperative. So this is also go. Not just after you've gone, make disciples, but it's got to have an imperative that it takes from the main verb. But looks back to why. On what basis do we go? Because all power in heaven and on earth. You can't, pasta ecstasy, you can't get bigger than this. And edothe was given, has been given. That's already been done. Okay, so far so good. Next slide. Now we come to de, which is my most important little word. This little word de is the one that authors in the Greek New Testament use and not kai to develop the text. Kai means and. De, if you look in the lexicon, it will say and, but. And I say sometimes, okay, and or but, the adversative. There's also an adversative kai that's used sometimes. That kai we will translate as but usually adversatives are strong. If it's an adversative kai, it's not a strong but, it's a weak but. Allah, nothing to do with, remember, with Allah, but Allah, the Greek Allah, but is a strong but. Rather, but that's still a connecting word. De is not just a connecting, it's not and or but it is a word that signals there is a change. Now, how big of a change depends on the author and the context. But it at least, for example, in Matthew, when you change the scene from the wise men, and the wise men leave, and Joseph and Mary are left as dead. New situation. The scene has changed. Dead. Now, dead can be much smaller. In Galatians 2:20, Paul is dead. It is no longer I who live, dead, but Christ who lives in me, dead. And the life of which I now live, dead. You see what's happening? Every step he wants us to understand, yes, I'm alive. No, I have been crucified with Christ. Yet, I still live, dead. But dead, not alive. So what's happening is each statement is important for him, a new development, but not a new scene. So that is a word that can, depending on the author too, how much he uses it and in what context. Now, can I tell you, Paul always uses it this way and Luke always uses it this way? No, I can't. But as we look at texts, I think we will see something important here. What are we trying to do? The first thing we're trying to do is look at a Greek text and determine what are the chunks, what Dr. Runge calls them chunks. It's what linguists call them nowadays. Chunks. So I'm calling them chunks. Paragraphs, if you will. Where are the paragraph breaks? Where does the author intend for us to see that there is a change? And how big of a change is it? Are there any other clues that tell me this is a big change, or this is a little change? I don't know how many of you were able to read this text beforehand from Runge, but this is the section from there. Am I sharing? Yeah. So, dead begins Matthew chapter 2. Now, I don't let chapter numbers tell me whether there should be a break here or not. Chapter numbers, verse numbers were added well after the Greek text was written. It was not until the Middle Ages that they put these in. So very nice. So we can tell, easily we can say Matthew chapter 2, verse whatever. But in the original manuscripts, all you had were uppercase Greek letters written together with no spaces between words, which makes, of course, there are some problems that they have in determining what exactly which word. Sometimes it could be this word, or it could be that word, because there's no letters between them. So there's sometimes differences for that reason in the text, but what we call the text critics, and that means not negative, but text critics work on what is the exact text that the original authors wrote. And they're continually working on that with new manuscripts. That's why we should not use the King James. I know that many of our congregation do, and if they do, I'm not going to tell them stop using it. But as a study person, I'm not going to use it because there's too much that's misleading, and it's the text, Greek text is based on this 500 years back. We've discovered too many manuscripts, too many pieces of pottery with Greek writing on them in the meantime to know much more about the original language. But as I look through here, I see that now, notice how they translated in the Lexington English Bible. No, this is one. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, why does he use now with dead? Because the scene has changed. Before, it was about Joseph, and that he should name the baby Jesus when it was born. And this connects with that before, but it begins a new section. So I have to have a new chunk here. Elefantos is in Paris participle. So was born. There's no emphasis here upon by whom he was born. But we know that his mother was Mary from the previous chapter. But right now he's not concentrating on that. So we're not going to concentrate on that. What he concentrates on here is Magor. Where is the one who has been born king? Notice that it is the Magoi who are under focus here first. When I preach, when I proclaim, when I teach, I need to put the emphasis where the author puts the emphasis, and they do look, Magoi. Apollo alone. Who would have thought that Gentiles, Magoi even, but learned men nonetheless, would be coming to Jerusalem asking, why aren't they asked? Furthermore, when they do find out, they still don't ask, right? So I'm looking at this text, all right, the next day, when, after he heard this, Herod was troubled. Herod was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Of course, if Herod is troubled, all Jerusalem, Asa, little Solomon, is going to be troubled as well. Because if he is troubled, he is a madman. He has syphilis. He is suffering from sexual diseases in his old age. In fact, his whole inside will fall out. And he dies a miserable death. He is not far from dying. He's an old man. He has exercised power. He has all the power, you think? God has never let the power out of his hand. Please teach the people this. I need to teach my own heart this. God has never let power go out of his hands. I don't care who thinks they are in control, who looks like they are in control. All power, passa, exousia, is in the hands of Jesus. Okay, all we're doing right now is noticing that each change in the scene is announced with the dead. Dead is not Kai. Now we have some Kai's all through here, connecting sentences, but dead develops. Kai connects, dead develops. This little word is hugely important because it tells us in Matthew where the chunks are, where he's focusing. And notice what he focuses on. And I still would like to know why these people, the high priests and the scholars, Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so, who are also political powers of the people, why they are not going down there. Well, I know why they are not going down there, because they're afraid of Herodes, right? Everybody is troubled when Herod is troubled. Okay. And you're all troubled as well because it was taking so long. Rumi has done something in the last 20 to 30 years. He has made what the linguists have been writing now for over more than 50 years, and it was not taught to me, but it is now more plain to us in the Greek text, what we did not see before. The authors have put signals in the text. They didn't have commas, they didn't have periods, they didn't have colons, they didn't have highlighters. They couldn't tell us this is a new topic, this is a new subject, this is a new just slight change, this is additional information. They couldn't do that except by certain words. And those words are words like dead. Dead is one of the most powerful words in the Greek New Testament. So watch out for it. It's a development marker. Okay, we've already talked about this, how the conjunction develops. It's different from asyndeton is also a way to develop vocals for kalimas waiting. If you see someone waiting, please let me know. Now we're going to stop sharing this. I want to share the other screen. Now, what I really want to look at, welcome, Colleen. Sorry for what happened. My computer crashed and, well, it crashed. All right. Hopefully, what I want. No. I want us to do some work first. Galatians Greek text. You're going to do. I want you to take Matthew chapter 18 while I'm setting this up. Here's a Greek New Testament here. So if you don't have one, take it. Just get one. If you can't see, and give it to groups, two groups. So as far as I know, only Khalid is online. Let's start recording. Are we recording? Turn to Matthew chapter 18. Okay, we are recording. Good. So what I would like for you to do is together in groups. Or you can do it twos. Yeah, twos is fine. Two persons together. Find the chunks. Where are the chunks?
Specifically dead or any other bird?
Anything else that you think might be a development marker? Sometimes it's not just dead. Sometimes it can be a hour of the day or a time signal. And ask yourself, he's making a change. How much of a change is he making? Matthew 18. How much of a change is he making? Matthew 18. And how does it relate to what was just said or what just happened? What is the change that's happening? He's moving from one thing to the other. What is the movement taking place? It can be a scene change. It can be an explanation change. Meanwhile, that's concordance mixed in. Give him a New Testament. No. Actually, do you not have a Greek New Testament? I've not given you a Greek New Testament yet. Oh, then it is a gift to you. Thank you, sir. Oh, well, no, sorry. It's the wrong, no, it's the wrong one. This is the gift that you get at the end of this course, and this is the last class. The only problem is Saji has not gotten the order yet, so you're going to have to pick it up from House 29 when it comes. And the reason that I want to give you this and not that is that this is the reader's edition, and underneath are the parsings of all the difficult poems. And the reason I didn't give that to you before now is that I didn't want you to have it. Please don't tell students coming up from the next course, because then they know what's coming. Don't tell them that this is the gift that you get for going all the way through with me. I don't see anyone not passing this course. That's why I'm going ahead. But it's not available yet. As soon as it's available, I will let you know. Otherwise, you have everything. You have the beginner's textbook and you have the intermediate textbook, right? You have this? Yes. Yeah. You get to keep all of those. Yes. Thank you, sir. You have either this or Kubo. We don't have Kubo. Who does not have Kubo? Manowar, you have Kubo. Only 4 of them. But you have to promise me you bring back this. This you don't keep, this you bring back. This is replacement, this you keep. I know this is nicer, but this costs a lot more to bring and to purchase. This does the same thing. I'm taking a chance by giving it to you now, but I just saw there was some here. So you can read it, you will find out. Don't worry about it now.
That's why I am mean to them. Yes. We need that we get some.
All right, but you should be working, not looking at books. What? Yeah, I think you're more interested in gifts than you are in working right now. Do you see any chunks in Matthew 18? Guy only connects, it does not develop. Salim, I hope you're still there. Because Zoom quit. I hope you're still connected. Okay, right now we're doing some group work. Yes. So, but I'm doing for those of mine. That's hard, but it gives just background information. This what? What do you call it? God. God looks back, not forward. God explains, gives additional information to explain what was before. It does develop, but in the sense of adding information, not moving forward. What's the second word? It's easy to overlook in this. Lost dead on.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Dead is never at the beginning. That's why it's another reason. It's easy to miss.
Off the mountain, standing up, sitting on the days of use. So,
Here you need to, don't try to translate everything. I'm looking for what are the main sections here? How does Matthew develop this chapter? I'm sorry, Kaleem, if you're on. No, he's not on. Okay. All right, we've been working a while. Let's start here. Who has an answer for me? What is the first chunk in the section? Manowar. Yes, but which? When I ask for a chunk, I mean paragraph. What is the first section? Which block of text does Deb begin and where does it end? When does another indication, another development marker take over and say, okay, now I want you to see this. We're looking at this, now we're looking at this. Verse 4.
yes.
Hostes un. Un is not as strong as dead. Un, depending on the circumstances, whoever therefore humbled himself as this child, like this child, this one is greater in the kingdom of heaven, or greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Maidson, the comparative works as a superlative, we say. So it makes a conclusion, but it's not the strong development marker that we have coming up, which is where? Anyone? Have you developed it? Have you seen it? What? when Matthew wants us to see something new, to focus on something new, he uses a development partner to say, okay, you've been focusing on this, and now I want you to focus on this.
He used past tense and present tense.
Yes, we'll come to that in just a moment. That is one of, that is a very important, also a very important development. But first of all, I'm chunking. I need to chunk. I need to break down my section into paragraphs. I need to see what are the main sections here. Because if I can see that, then I can see what he is trying to tell me. What he wants me to focus on. How he is developing his main theme. And then I know his main theme. We're not seeing it.
18 verse 1. Who are most profound?
Oh, this is very strong. Yes. In that hour. Now, a kainos, actually, whenever you see a kainos, especially if hutos, this would be more expected at this time. When the author uses a kainos, that's an emphasis that is on purpose. In that hour, right there. Now, what just happened? Peter paid taxes. Peter paid his taxes and Jesus' taxes. Right? Peter said, how are we going to pay our taxes? Jesus said, go fishing. And by the way, we're actually the sons of the king, so we don't need to pay taxes, but let's not cause offense. So we didn't have any change. So go take the fish and there'll be a denarius and pay my taxes and yours. Now that the other disciples standing there, wait a minute. He's paying Peter and his tax. What about us? Who is the greatest in the kingdom anyway? Hey, Jesus, hello. I mean, he's already said, Peter, flesh and blood did not reveal this to you. That's back in chapter 16, right? So now they're really getting concerned. Is he putting Peter in charge here? I have a little problem with this, right? John says, James says, Bartholomew or Nathaniel or which one it was, they're all saying, Judas especially, wait a minute, who's the greatest? Who are you going to put in charge? And Jesus uses this as an opportunity, right? In that hour, at that time, at this very moment, the disciples came to him asking, who then, ara, who then, therefore, ara is one of those words that looks back to. Who then, so who is greatest in the kingdom? Or what does Jesus say? The little child. Now that will rock their boat. Because children counted for nothing. Until you are of age, bar mitzvah, well, they didn't have bar mitzvahs yet. That was a later Jewish tradition, the bar mitzvah, when the son comes of age, the big party and so on. That's a later tradition. You probably need a break. Let's finish this in a minute. Where's our next chunk start?
Verse 21.
All the way down there?
Yes.
Toten was Elton Mapekos Ethan Alto. Anybody else a suggestion? Verse 21 is suggested. When's our next chunk? So we have verses 1 to 20 as one main paragraph, one main section. Now, death is not the only indicator is full. No one. In verse 6, we have host death on. Whoever causes one of these little ones to sin. So, notice, first part, who is greatest? Next part, whoever causes this little one to sin. Now, how long does this chunk go? Notice that in this Greek Testament, they broke it at verse 10. Morate. Imperative. See to it. See. That no one misleads you or misleads one of these little ones. See to it. But why are they breaking the paragraph here? Do you see a development marker in the Quran? I don't. So I see verse 10 belongs to the section of verse 6. What about verse 12? T will mean okay. They make a paragraph here, down in verse 14. Is there a development marker here? No. So again, I think this belongs also with everything from verse 6 now. What about verse 15? Now they have a development part. They have a new paragraph. They are dead. Amartes. I think we have a new section beginning at verse 15. You see what is happening? I'm connecting these things together. That the scene changes, the focus changes, are at these places. Not necessarily where the New Testament authors put it, but this is in 8:28, and that's the Alan 28 text. You can't let them tell you where the chunks are, because they don't know. Even though they're textual, they're experts. Sure, they're experts. Can you read all that stuff at the bottom of the page? I can. And we're all manuscripts, different manuscripts for different variants. But they can't tell me where the division should be, where the fronts change. No. So what is happening here is this. Let me go back. First of all, I want to tell you something about Matthew. Matthew does this. Matthew was probably a teacher in Antioch of Syria. Antioch, where the first church was formed that reached out to the Gentiles. It was not like the mother church in Jerusalem. That was very conservative, and it never grew. In fact, it eventually, at the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, so 40 years later, it all moved to a place called Pella, and it basically went out of existence. The churches that grew were the ones that reached out to the nations around them. Antioch was first, Ephesus and then Corinth, Rome. Those churches were the reaching out churches. Ephesus was a huge reaching out church. That's why John, the apostle, went there after Paul passed away, apparently, because we have the Gospel of John and we have the book of Revelation. So he had a great ministry among those churches. And those were the huge growing churches. And in Egypt, where the apostle Mark, well, he wasn't an apostle. He wasn't one of the 12, but Mark went to, according to tradition, Mark went to Egypt. But Mark was very much connected with Peter. Those are the growing churches. But Matthew is in Antioch, most likely, teaching. Now, of course, this is not in the Bible, so we don't know this for sure. But he was teaching new believers. What he did was insert blocks of teaching with what looks like he took from Mark's gospel. Why not? Why not take Mark's gospel, edit it, and put in blocks of teaching? So we have chapters 5 to 7. You know the Sermon on the Mount. I call it the Constitution of the King's Kingdom. But this part, oh, you can't see when it's not sharing. It's not showing it. I'm going to stop sharing. What happens when I turn on PowerPoint? What happens to me? Is there anything? No. Kalim is gone. He's not watching. All right. Okay, I can only say Matthew is built in chunks. All right. Chapters 1 to 4 are story form. Chapters 5 to 7 are teaching form. Then we have chapters 8 to 12, story form, miracles, different experiences. Then we have chapter 13, teaching, the parables. There was a sower who went out to sow. Then chapters 14, and we have a new narrative section. Then we have next teaching section, chapter 18. This is the third big teaching section, chapter 18. Now, there's stories within it, but it's mainly a teaching block. What is this block about? And this block is about the kids of I call it the kids of the kingdom. Who are the real disciples? Who are the ones who have life from above? To use the phrase from Nicodemus in John chapter 3. Who are the ones who are truly born from above, eternal life? Who are they? They're the little ones who have believed into me. Now, notice something else that we already mentioned it. Okay, I'll give you a break first. Maybe I can make this work. I'll take a break, take 10 minutes, but we need to finish shortly after 6:30 because I discovered that at 7 o'clock, everything here is already shut down and they're trying to get me out. So don't take too long. Just take 10 minutes break so you can stand up and move around.
Yes. No.
No one is in this meeting.